Hey, good morning. This is Nazar with Provident Real Estate. I've had a lot of inquiries about what the foreclosure process is like and exactly what the timeline is of what happens in the sequence that follows between being late on your payment and actually being foreclosed on. There's actually 5 parts to this equation or the process, and I wanted to go over it with you guys. The very first thing is when you stop making your mortgage payments. Most mortgages are due on the 1st of the month. They're late on day 16, so they give you actually a 15-day grace window to make your payment. So on day 16, when you don't make your payment on that date, first of all, you're getting a lot of phone calls, and the banks do have a right by law to file a notice of default. Now, basically, notice of default is a document that they file and get recorded, which basically lets your creditors know, and it's recorded in your credit bureau. Everybody else know that you haven't made your payments. Again, even though they have a right to file that on day 16, they typically don't file that until 3 months of consecutive late payments. So if you haven't made a payment for 3 months, that's typically when they file it. But through the years, as I've been doing short sales, I have noticed that some clients and banks, either they're inundated or they just are generous. They don't file notice of defaults. And I've had clients where they haven't made a payment for over a year and they still haven't received a notice of default, which is interesting to me. But again, typically it's after 3 months of not making your payments, but they have a right to file on day 16 if they wanted to. So once you receive a notice of default, 90 days after that date is when they can file a notice of trustee sale. A notice of trustee sale date is basically a date set where 14 days after that date or any time after that, they have a right to sell your property at the county court steps. And again, they can postpone that, and we'll talk about that in a second, but a trustee sale date is usually posted on your front door. It's just a blank piece of, or not a blank piece of paper, but it's a piece of paper that states, who you are, your address, your EPN number, when your loan was taken out, how much you owe on the property, and how much you're late by, and the date that the home is going to be sold in, and what city and county and location that the property is going to be sold in. And so once you receive a notice of trustee sale date, typically again 14 days after that date, they have a right to actually have the date be set to sell your property. Now when that date comes, the auction date is what it's called. It's usually at some counties, court steps somewhere. It's really inconspicuous where it's done, and you'll just see a whole bunch of crowded people to get together, vultures or whatever you want to call them, that want to buy your property. And at that point in time, there's 4 things that could happen. Number 1, if you're in the process of doing a loan modification, or if you're doing a short sale, you can possibly get it postponed. And if you get it postponed, basically what they do is they just move back the date either a month or a week or 2 weeks. 2 months, whatever they want. They'll postpone a date for the auction at some future point. Number 2 is it can get sold back to the bank. So let's say if you bought the property for $600,000, and now your property is worth $350,000, and you have a loan on it for $650,000. The bank could say, well, I want $650,000 on this property. Well, no one's going to want to buy it at that price, and so at that court steps, they'll ask for that much. No one will pay for that, so it'll revert back to the bank. And at that point, that's when it's called an REO, or bank-owned property. So at that point, the bank hires an asset management company. The asset management company hires a real estate company to go ahead and market the property. The third thing that could happen is it can get sold to a third party. So let's say, again, same exact example, you buy your property for $650,000 or $600,000, and you owe $650,000 worth of loans, but the bank realizes that the property is only worth $350,000, and so they'll sell it at the court steps for $300,000 because they just want to get rid of the property. And so they sell it for $300,000. Someone picks it up, a third party, either a private lender or a private owner, or someone that just wants to buy homes at the court steps, buy the property, and then will come to you and say, hey, look, I noticed that your property was sold, I purchased it, and I need you to get out of the property. The very fourth thing that can happen is it can get canceled. So if you're in the process of doing a loan modification and they actually approve your loan modification, even though you had court date set, at that point in time they can go ahead on that exact date, they can cancel the whole process. So when it's canceled, they would have to start the whole process all over again. Now again, when it's sold to a third party, or if it's sold to the bank, then it becomes a trustee's deed. And so that's when the winning bidder or the bank has the property and the title of the property, and then you have to get kicked out. On the next segment, I will talk about what happens when your home does go to foreclosure and it's actually sold either back to the bank or the trustee, or excuse me, a third party, and we'll discuss a little bit more in details exactly what your rights are and what you can do to prevent that point. Now, again, at any point in time, either doing a loan modification, you got to know that the timeline is still ticking. The time is still ticking. You would have to do something. You have to be proactive and dealing with the bank and make sure that they acknowledge that there's an auction date set, if in fact there is, and that they do postpone it. A lot of times when you're dealing with loan modification, you're dealing with one department, and you've got a completely different department that actually handles the foreclosure proceedings. They hire an attorney to do that. And so if the attorney or the foreclosure proceedings, that company doesn't know what's going on, then they're going to continue on with the foreclosure process without you knowing that you're doing a loan modification. So be really careful and cognizant of what's going on and make sure that both the bank that you're dealing with, either it's short sale or loan modification, knows that you're doing that. And so if you receive a notice of default or you receive an auction date, that they postpone that so you can continue on with that process. Hopefully this information has been helpful. If you have any additional questions or like more information about what to do with a short sale or loan modification, please don't hesitate to go to my website or to give me a call. I'll be more than happy to help you out, or send me an email or text, whatever it is. You can reach me directly on my cell phone, area code 714-337-6286. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.